Besides God and my wife and the amazing team, like what has helped me not only sustain success, but scale it, but also at the same time deal with the tension and the tough times too. And I was like, my budget and my relationship with it, right? To allow it to guide me and to show me answers and to give me areas of opportunity while also showing myself grace to be a little bad at it from time to time, whether that's sticking with it, whether that's updating it, right? Whether that's listening to it or whether that's letting it scare me a little bit from time to time. Tim Grover is the individual who trained Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, right? And he also trained about almost every other great athlete you can think of. Tim Grover was asked a question that said, what made those two so different? And he said, their obsession with the foundational things and they never got sick of them, right? And I love the quote that says, the advanced people are just better at the foundational things than other people, or they've just been doing them longer and more consistently. Most athletes, when the season starts, they have that honeymoon phase and they're like the first month or two crushing it. And then they're like, screw that 4 a.m. alarm clock. Screw stretching before practice. Screw staying after to shoot an extra 100 shots, right? Those foundational things that separate you. I want to make sure that's not happening with our major tool, with the most foundational thing that we can rely on, which is our budget, right? It's to decrease your stress and anxiety and increase your opportunity. Leveraging the story it's telling you and the data it's providing. We're not just filling this thing out to fill it out, right? There's many reasons why we're filling this thing out, but a big reason is so we can make more empowered decisions. My objective is to help you close out current months and use the information to set yourself up for success for the next month. Towards the end of every single month, like usually between yesterday and today, I am sitting down and Lauren's usually with me on the personal side of things and Britt and Carolyn on the business side of things, right? And then setting ourselves up for success for the next month, right? And when we can be proactive, right, around our finances, it really does open up a lot of opportunities and it really does decrease your stress and anxiety. And the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go over how to close out a month. The first thing is just to make sure everything's accurate. Basically, I'm reviewing this and I know there's a couple of days left in the month. So obviously there may be a payment that's still left to pull, right? Which just makes sense. It hasn't happened yet. We got a couple of days left in the month. Right? But for the most part, right, you got the information that you need. And so I'm going through it, I'm checking my main credit cards or our bank accounts. And I'm just asking myself, is everything here? Right? It's very simple, right? Is everything in this budget that happened this month, right? And then the second thing that I'm doing is ask myself, is there anywhere we can make conscious decisions on these three things, right? And so the first one being savings, all right? So I'll give you an example. Let's just say this was my situation. I go and I review my eating out line item. I'm reviewing all of them, but I come upon the eating out one. And I'm like, oh shoot, I only have $10 left in eating out and there's a couple of days left in the month, right? I should probably act off of that, right? So I don't go over budget unnecessarily or unconsciously, right, on an avoidable expense. And instead that money is recouped back in my pocket to go towards my financial goals, right? And so if my buddies call me tonight or tomorrow, like, Justin, let's go out for dinner and drinks, I'd probably be like, nah, let's hold off until September, right? Making choices on my circumstances. Right? No reason to go over the budget unless you consciously choose to. And on that note, you could look, right, at your total expenses down here and just, technically you're over already, but let's just say you were under in totality, right? Or you were under on one thing, right? And you kind of just reshift that underage to the conscious decision that you're trying to make that may put you a little over, right? So for example, I just say you weren't going to spend any more money on between now and the end of the month, right? And you're like, okay, I'm $150 under budget on my expenses, right? That's what this variance column is saying. It's saying that we plan for you to spend this much. You actually only spent this month much, and the actual, right, is about $150 under budget, right? And you want to spend $30 on eating out instead of $20. Right? You can just say, hey, listen, I know it's going to put me over on that line item, but I'll still be under on expenses in totality. But just showing how sometimes if you're massively under are on one expense or an expenses in totality, but you're about to make a decision that's going to put you over on one line item, sometimes it's okay because at the end of the month, you're still okay with expenses in totality. That's just a conscious decision right there on savings, right? And at the end of the month, it's pretty easy to, not pretty easy, but it's quite blatant where those opportunities are, because there's only a couple of days left in the month. You probably know what money you're spending and what money you're not. The next thing is goals, right? And so let's just say that towards the end of the month, right, like you've actually profited, right? See this number here, right? We planned for you to profit 642. You actually profited 792. And so you got $150 more in profit than we anticipated. Can we throw this at one of your goals, right? To speed that up a little bit. And so do you have extra money to speed your goals up? And so I do this often where I'm like, all right, I'm just going to make up a fake easy example. I'm trying to build my emergency fund back up, right? And I had planned to put about $600 in there this month. Now I'm going to put all of this extra profit in there this month and speed my goals up a little bit. Anywhere where you can make conscious decisions on goals. And the last thing, and probably my favorite here, is lifestyle. Like when I get to the end of the month and I got extra miscellaneous and I'm not over on expenses in totality, you best believe I'm taking my happy self to the Nike outlet, right? But like I look at this and I'm like, all right, well, I mean, I've got $200. I'm under budget on miscellaneous. I don't see anything crazy happening between now and Sunday, right? I'm gonna be under on, expenses in totality. I'm cool with where my goals are at. I'm cool with, where my savings is at right now. And I wanna live my life a little bit, right? And this is that third C when we talk about this budget allows you to live your life in a calculated, controlled, and confident fashion, right? And this is that confident fashion, right? So when I'm in the Nike outlet, getting myself a new pair of Jordan 1s, I'm not making myself feel guilty about it because I made a conscious decision, right? When anywhere you can make conscious decisions towards the end of the month as you're wrapping it up, right? Savings, goals, and lifestyle. And so the next thing I'm looking at is, was there a profit or a deficit? If profit, what to do with it? I'm over here, I'm like, all right, whoa, I ran a $792 profit this month. It's a decent chunk of money, right? What am I doing with that? How you can help understand that, right, is just pulling up your balance sheet. Your balance sheet has these tabs at the bottom, which are your goal plans, right? They're the goals that you're working on over here, right? And so I pull this up and I ask myself, okay, what goal am I working on? Building my emergency fund. And that's where I'm going to attribute my profits to, right? If not there, where and why? And then the next thing here is there a deficit, right? A deficit it'll turn red if there's a deficit. Shoot, I ran a $507 deficit, right? Ask yourself, was this planned? If so, okay, right? If not, why did this happen and how do we accommodate? I ask myself, when we run deficits and I'm over here, I'm like, oh shoot, that wasn't supposed to happen, right? That wasn't supposed to happen. We were supposed to run a profit of 642, right? I actually ran a deficit of about 508. And so really when you run a deficit, especially an unexpected one, the answer lies in one or two areas. You either made less than you were supposed to make, or you either spent more than you were supposed to make, or spent more than you were supposed to spend. And so I'll go here and I'm like, okay, income was fine. I made exactly how much I was supposed to make, right? So the issue has to be in expenses, and I come down here and there we go. There it is right there, right? Okay, miscellaneous put me over, right? And that's what made me run a little bit of a deficit here. And so just again, I'm teaching very simplistic examples here so you can kind of just wrap your head around this. Next thing, right? This is one of my favorite questions to ask, right? What went well and what didn't go well? I'm gonna be like, whoa, eating out went really well. Right? It's usually where I go over, right? And I'm like, wow, that's awesome. And then I'm looking here and I'm like, oof, miscellaneous. That was a little off. That didn't go too well. What caused that? Right? Was it within my control? If not, okay, something crazy popped up, which is gonna happen from time to time. That's why we have this line item and/or an emergency fund, right? But if there was an area of opportunity here, it's like you went to the Nike outlet, Justin, about 3 more times than you were supposed to, right? There's some control over that, right? And so that's what I mean about area of opportunities. The best way that you can just review the whole budget is just look at the variance column. The variance column is just going to tell you where your areas of opportunity are. Like what you hit budget on, what you went under on, and what you went over on. Black is good, red is bad, right? Keep it very simple. All right, and so that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the variance column. I'm going up and down for both personal and business. right? And trying to figure out where my areas of opportunity are. And the variance column is going to tell you that. Okay, the last two things that I do before I move on to setting myself up for success for the next month is I ask how much progress did I make on my goals, right? And so I'll go to the balance sheet and be like, okay, I have a goal of building an emergency fund before the month started. Right, let's just do some fake easy numbers here. Before the month started, right, I had about $23,000 in my emergency fund, right? Now I have about $25,000, right? So I made about $1,950 of progress this month. Like, how much closer did I get to my goals this month? I've got for easier, simpler numbers, I've got a goal of an emergency fund of $30,000. Before this month, I was at $20,000. Now I'm at $22,000, so I made $2,000 of progress on that goal. Last thing is, how much further do I have to go to reach the goals I'm working on? Okay, now I have $22,000 in emergency fund. My goal is $30,000, so I have $8,000 more to go, right? You know, a big part of this is you get what you focus on, right? And I've really realized that you get what you focus on. When I know my numbers, I know my goals, right? I know what I need to do to get there each month, right? It significantly increases the chances of me actually doing it, right? Instead of just having this subjectivity, this gray area, like, I'm not really sure how far I am in my emergency fund. I don't really know what goal I'm working on right now. Not really sure how far I am from hitting it, right? Guess what you're gonna get? The not sures. You're gonna continue to get a lack of results. All right, now we have the information that we need, and now go be successful with it in the future, right? And so let's be proactive with that information. How do you set yourself up for success for the next month, right? The first thing is I just ask myself, do we have everything expense-wise? I'm just gonna pretend like this is the next month. And Lauren and I sit down and we ask ourselves, do we have everything here, right? Like, we're just gonna pretend like this is September. What is happening in September, and are we accounting for that? Are there any birthdays? Are there any weddings, right? Is there anything happening in September that we need to account for? What's happening here business-wise, right? We have an event coming up that we don't have budgeted for. Do I have a photo shoot coming up where we got a budget for the videographer, right? Is somebody getting a bonus, right? Are we making a different investment, right? And so we ask ourselves all of those questions at the beginning of the month, right? It's just to make sure that everything is there. And so that's really what we're doing, just asking ourselves, is everything there expense-wise? Right, take a minute. Right, take a minute. Like, look at your calendar, look at your emails, right? Ask yourself, who has a birthday this month, right? What was I invited to? And it'll help you make sure you have everything. The next thing here is, as business owners, we got to figure out how much you have to pay yourself. We have two separate budgets here for our business owners, right? Personal and business, right? And so income-wise, I ask myself, is there any income coming in this month that is not business related? So you may have a day job, you may have a side hustle, your significant other may have a day job, right? And so let's just say, for this theoretical example, their significant other has a day job and they're gonna be making $4,500 this month on the personal side. Again, this is all income that is not business related, all right? And then we scroll down and we look at all of the personal expenses, right? And so we say, okay, all the personal expenses, all in, right? With everything happening this month, we're gonna spend about $8,000. Right? So if I don't pay myself any money this month from the business, right, we're gonna run about a $3,500 deficit. As you can imagine, that's not ideal if we can control it, right? And so, simply put, the answer of how much do you need to pay yourself is at least enough to break even, right? And so breaking even here would be paying myself $3,500. Right now I scroll down and I'm breaking even by a few bucks here. But what is wrong with a break even? It doesn't leave any money left over to go towards your goals, right? And you have to ask yourself, okay, on top of the $3,500 that I have to pay myself, how much more do I want to pay myself so I have enough money left over to go towards my goals? And you're like, okay, I want to make sure I at least have $500 left over to go towards my goals this month. So that means I have to pay myself the $3,500 to break even, right? Plus the $500 to go towards my goals, to have that money left over for $4,000 total. And if I scroll down, this says, okay, Justin, if you pay yourself $4,000 this month, you have enough to cover all of your expenses, right? And still have about $542 left over to go towards your goals or profit. The next thing we're gonna do here is, what is projected, right? A profit or a deficit, right? And so obviously we just put ourselves into a profit with that methodology on how to pay yourself. right? And so if a profit, what are you doing with it, right? So this anticipated $542 profit, right? Ask yourself, what are you doing with it? This is how you be proactive instead of reactive in your finances, right? I'm gonna have most likely have a $542 profit. What am I doing with that, right? And the answer usually lies on your other major financial tool, which is your balance sheet, right? And you come over here and you look at your goals. What goal am I still working on? That's usually the easy answer where your profits are gonna go towards. If there's a deficit, how do we overcome this, right? Hopefully we don't see a deficit, right? But there may be. And ask yourself, how do you overcome this? If you find yourself struggling with some expenses, I make little mini budgets for those. For a while, I'm just gonna make a fake example. We were struggling with eating out, or not eating out, groceries, I'll call it, right? And so a little mini budget at the bottom of the budget, right? Groceries, right, as the line item, right? And we're gonna do actual, budget, variance, right? And so over here, right, is going to be, I'm gonna ask myself first, what's my overall grocery budget? Great, right? I usually go 4 times in a month, right? So what is 700 divided by 4? 175, boom. You just drag this, click this little blue circle, right, and drag it down. It'll drag it down for you accordingly and just do the same math for you. Let me zoom in, all right? And so do a little money here, all right? This little variance column, right? When you build a variance column for expenses, it's just equal sign budget minus actual. And again, if I just click this little blue circle right here and drag it down, it just says, excuse me, Google Sheets, can you do the same equation down here, please? Right? And it just copies this equation down there for me, or the number, right? And actual being 0, right, for right now, right? And so the line items are gonna be the 4 grocery trips that I take each month, right? So I'm gonna look at my calendar, and Lauren usually goes to the grocery store, right, on the weekend. And so I'm like, okay, just making up easy numbers here. So we're gonna have 1 grocery trip, right, on 8/7, the next one on 8/14, the next one on 8/21, the next one on 8/28, right? And when you come home from the grocery store, just like you do it up here in this line item, right, also put it in here, right? So if you're like, okay, first trip, I spent 200, I'm already 25 bucks over, right? So now I know next trip to break even, I needed to spend only 150. I need to recoup that 25 I went over, right? And just these little mini budgets help you break down line items in the budget that you may be struggling with over time. Right? If you're struggling, this is a strategy that if you're struggling to stick to budget for a particular line item, break it down into a little mini budget on the bottom of your budget, right? So we can start seeing the micro actions that add up to this bigger macro number on the budget. I'm not saying that's a strategy that you have to run, but it is one thing where I'm like, okay, we gotta get this eating out thing together, right? We're talking about it at the beginning of every month, and every single month we get to the end, and there's like 250 bucks over, right? So there's many ways that you can fix that, but we found that breaking it down and seeing the micro so we can make better decisions in the moment, right, helps lead to better results. Now we want to repeat this for business, right? Everything I just taught you, you want to do the same exact thing for your business budget, right? But instead of figuring out how much you need to pay yourself, you already figured that out. The only difference now is you need to figure out how much the business needs to make. If I go over to the business budget, I need to fill in the self-pay line item, right? Because your self-pay from the business is income on the personal side of things, but is an expense on the business side of things. And so I'm going to plug in $4,000 here, right? And so if I go to the bottom, right, it's basically saying that with my self-pay, I've got about $6,100 in expenses. So if I want to break even, drop it in the comments. How much would I have to pay myself this month if I wanted to break even? Or how much would I have to make in the business, to break even? But again, what's wrong with breaking even? You don't have any money left over to go towards your goals, right? You're just breaking even, which is fine. It's better than a deficit, right? But we want to have money left over to go towards your goals, like building an emergency fund for the business, hiring that next coach, right? Hiring a new employee, right? Buying that next program, right? Whatever it may be, right? And so let's just say I want to have $1,000 left over, right? I'm going to go up here, right, and say, okay, make about $7,300. And scroll down and give or take a few bucks, about $1,000 profit, right? So this says, okay, I gotta make $7,300. The business needs to make $7,300 this month, to pay me the $4,000 I need to be paid, to have $1,000 left over for the business, right? And then to be able to pay myself that money to cover all of the personal things and also have a little bit of leftover money to go towards the personal goals. So last thing here is just like, okay, great, cool. I got to make $7,300. How am I doing that? Your first question is, what is your guaranteed income this month, right? So I asked myself, okay, JFF's got to make $7,300 this month. What's my guaranteed income this month? So I go through and I look through payment plans, right? That, we have are pre-existing. I look through and see Steph, just push through a deposit for a new sale, right? And I'm like, all right, cool. Take easy number here, right? Right, we got $4,000. That's my guaranteed income, right? Income needed was $7,300. Still needed, right? You would just do the needed income minus the guaranteed income. And since you still need about $3,300, right? And so before the month, you realize the money that you have guaranteed coming in and the difference between what you actually need, that number, right? And so now we can go out and be proactive. It's like, all right, Steph, I just need you to sell one membership and we're good to go, right? She's got 10 calls in the books next month. She's gonna definitely close at a 10% rate. Good, phew, I can calm down and go be creative now and make even more money. Or if that data isn't there to show that that gap is gonna be covered, I can start acting on it now instead of getting to the end of the month and saying, shoot, my business made $3,300 less than I was supposed to make. I wish I would have known that. Proactive instead of reactive. Right, so let me recap here. My objective today was to help you close out current months and use the information to set yourself up for success for the next month. If you think that objective was accomplished, drop the word yes in the comments for me. One thing that's been really helpful for me over the years too as well is just observing when and why I avoid the budget. Like if I'm going a couple of days without tracking it, right? I'm like, why? I have like 7 computers. I'm always at one of them, right? Like my it's probably pulled up for some reason or another. Like, why am I not hopping into it? And so, sometimes people are like, I just need to be more disciplined. And I'm always like, maybe, but I've found that if you can just figure out why you're avoiding, inherently, you're just going to become more disciplined. Sometimes I've been following this budget probably for about 8 or 9 years. And so sometimes I just forget how important it is and honestly how new it is to y'all. Like some of the things that are just second nature to me, I forget that it's new and it's exciting and it's experimental for y'all. So I love going back to the foundations. Right, and I'll end it on, the comment, like I said in the beginning, the most advanced people are just better at the foundational things than other people. See, that's the main difference. It's the main difference.